welcome to this Wednesday, October 24th edition of Westman Newsline. I'm Colton Yarch alongside Jordan Olson and Dylan Donald. In today's news, we'll tell you about funding for repairs to the Keystone Centre and bring you the latest on Assiniboine Community College's move to the North Hill. And Jordan will be in with sports. Jordan, I understand the Brandon Wheat Kings continue to struggle on the road.
Unfortunately, you're right, Colton. The Wheats took game to overtime but failed to get back to the 500 on their West Coast swing. All of that story and more later on in sports.
Thanks, Jordan. And Dylan will be in with weather. Dylan, the rain has stopped, but it's still a long way from pleasant outside.
That's true, Colton, and even though it is near the end of October, we're experiencing some temperatures that are several degrees lower than normal for this time of year. Currently in Brandon, it's 1 degree and partly cloudy. There's a 10% chance of precipitation, and winds are out of the west at 21 kilometers an hour. I'll be back with all your weather details later on in the show.
Thanks, Dylan. The feds are funding fixes to Brandon's Keystone Centre. Ditto the province and the city of Brandon. Brandon serves Conservative MP Merv Tweed said yesterday that federal government has signed off on its one-third share of a $3.3 million funding agreement for Keystone repairs. That move comes on the heels of both the province and the city committing equal amounts. Tweed said the deal was done quickly due to the fact the other funding partners had approved their shares. If the money is not spent by March 31st, it gets transferred back to the federal government. Assiniboine Community College is keen to get on with Phase 3 of its move to the North Hill campus as soon as possible. But while the provincial government remains dedicated to completing the relocation, Minister of Advanced Education Aaron Selby said the millions of dollars needed for that to happen won't appear immediately. Selby suggested the government will continue talking with ACC administration about when the project might be completed, but no timeline is currently in place. According to ACC President Mark Frison, the college's staff and students are eager to be on the same campus. Currently, slightly more than half of the college's students remain at the Victoria Avenue campus. Just one day after police in the provincial capital publicly urged citizens to drive more cautiously, yet another serious motor vehicle accident has taken place in Winnipeg. 5 people, including 2 children, are in hospital after a head-on crash involving a minivan and a sport utility vehicle. Police say the children, who are under the age of 10, are in critical condition after last night's crash in a west central neighborhood on Academy Road. They say all 5 injured people were in the minivan, while the lone male driver of the SUV wasn't hurt. A witness says one of the vehicles burst into flames just after the impact. As we told you yesterday, Winnipeg's new police chief suggested that prayer can help cut crime. Now he's facing criticism for that sentiment. Devin Clunas told a Christian weekly newspaper that prayer could play a significant role in building safer communities. Christian Week quotes Clunas as saying good things happen if people started praying for peace and acting on those prayers. An ethics professor at the University of Manitoba says Clunas should not be advocating religion from a public office. Arthur Schaefer says there is no evidence to show that religious countries have lower crime rates. From crime rates now to monetary rates. A downward trend yesterday has, at least in some cases, turned upward. Let's take a look at where today's markets are currently sitting.
You're watching Westman Newsline, produced by the media production students of Assiniboine Community College. Local news, weather, and sports only on Westman Newsline, airing on WCG-TV at 1 p.m. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Turning to international news now, with the presidential debates over in the U.S., the final stage of the campaign begins. President Barack Obama and Mitt Romney are hitting the road, focusing on the battleground states that could decide this close race.
Hello, Florida!
Bang! The final presidential debate was the starting pistol for a 2-week sprint to the finish line. As President Obama fought to hold on to Florida, Mitt Romney tried his luck in Nevada.
And by the way, the math in my plan adds up.
On the campaign plane, Romney's advisors were quick to brush off the president's move to unveil a new 20-page blueprint outlining his agenda for a second term. The Romney campaign has already turned the GOP nominee's debate pivot to the economy.
Governor Romney, wrong and reckless policies?
I've got a policy for the future and an agenda for the future.
Into a new ad.
I'll get us on track to a balanced budget.
A trio of key debate flashpoints laid down the battle lines for 3 crucial swing states. For Jewish voters in Florida, Romney's attack on Mr. Obama's decision not to visit Israel during his first foreign trip as president.
You went to the Middle East and you flew to Egypt and to Saudi Arabia and to Turkey and Iraq. And by the way, you skipped Israel.
If we're going to talk about trips that we've taken,
For factory workers in Ohio, the flare-up over Romney's opposition to the auto bailout.
they would have gone through a liquid.
You're wrong, Mr. President.
No, I am not
You're
wrong. I am not
People
wrong.
can look it up. You're right.
People will look it up.
And for military voters in Virginia, Romney's charged that the size of the Navy is at 1917 levels.
Well, Governor, we also have fewer horses and bayonets because the nature of our military's changed.
It was hardly a direct hit for either candidate. As it turns out, every Marine still undergoes bayonet training. And the fact-checking watchdog PolitiFact rated Romney's attempts to blame the president for the Navy's current fleet levels as pants on fire.
An international poll of people who watched the debate showed 48% favored Obama compared to 40% for Romney. The margin of error is plus or minus 4.5%. Explosions in the Iraqi capital have killed at least 9 people. The 3 separate blasts happened in and around Baghdad. At least 15 people have been injured. In one of the attacks, a mortar round landed on a residential area and killed 7 people. Elsewhere, a car bomb exploded near a busy outdoor market, killing 2 more. That's it for news, but stay tuned. Dylan's up next with Newsline Weather.
Good afternoon. With Newsline Weather, I'm Dylan Donald. Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's colder than it should be for this time of year. And while there's a slight chance of some snow, temperatures are going to remain below normal for the next several days. Right now it's cloudy and 1 degree, and there's a 10% chance of precipitation. Winds are out of the west at 21 kilometers an hour. This evening the temperatures should sit around 4 degrees under cloudy sky with a 10% chance of showers. Winds will be out of the west at 25 kilometers an hour. Overnight the sky will remain clear, but temperatures will dip down to -4. There's a 20% chance of a rain-snow mixture, and winds will be out of the west at 20 kilometers an hour. Looking at our radar image now, you can see there's not a lot of precipitation over Manitoba today, but there is a chance that we'll see these flurries that are swirling over Saskatchewan right now make their way to our neck of the woods in the next couple of days. Turning to our satellite image now, you'll note a heavy cluster of clouds heading our way from the United States that will likely keep our region's skies on the gloomy side for the next few days. Taking a look at the 5-day forecast, Thursday should be partly cloudy with a high of +2. There's a 30% chance of a rain-snow mixture, and winds are out of the northwest at 30 gusting to 50 kilometers an hour with a low of -4. Friday will see a high of 0 under a partly cloudy sky. There's a 30% chance of flurries, and winds are 30 kilometers an hour out of the northwest. The low should be around -5. And I wish I had better news for the weekend, but Saturday, a high of only -2, low of -11 with partly cloudy sky. There's a 20% chance we'll see some light snow, and winds will be from the northwest at 15 kilometers an hour. Sunday, the partly cloudy skies will remain, and so will the sub-zero temperatures. We're expecting a high of -1 and a low of -11. There's a 20% chance we'll see some flurries, and winds will be out of the southeast at 15 kilometers an hour. The flurries will continue to the beginning of next week. On Monday, there's a 60% chance of flurries, a high of +1 with partly cloudy sky. The low will be around -9, and winds will be 15 kilometers an hour out of the east. Taking a look around the region, Winnipeg, Portage la Prairie, as well as Dauphin are sitting at 3 degrees right now, while Neepawa and Carberry are seeing 2. Killarney is reporting in at 0, while Minnedosa and Verdun are sitting at 1. Normal temperatures for this time of year are highs of 8 and low of -4. The record high was 25.4 in 1989, and the record low was set back in 1957 when temperatures reached -16.7 degrees. Once again in Brandon, it's cloudy and +1. There's a 10% chance of precipitation, and winds are out of the west at 21 kilometers an hour. That's it for weather, but stick around. Jordan's up next with Newsline Sports.
Good afternoon with Newsline Sports. I'm Jordan Olson. Penalties were a pox on the Wheat Kings in their 4-3 overtime loss last night in Victoria. Battling back from 2 goals down to beat the Wheat Kings, the Victoria Royals scored 3 times on a power play, including Alex Gogolev's game-winning goal at 1 minute and 58 seconds into overtime. Gogolev and Ben Walker each scored twice for the Royals. Alessio Bertaggia had a goal and an assist, while Eric Roy and Tim Magali also netted goals for the Wheat Kings. The Wheats are now tied for 5th place in the Eastern Conference with the Swift Current Broncos. The Wheat Kings hope to improve from their 1-2-1-0 road trip record when they roll into Vancouver tonight for Game 5 on their West Coast road trip. The Brandon Sun Westman Super League of Curling is back for another exciting season. Westman Newsline's Colton Yarich hurried hard down to the curling club to file this report.
And will run every Wednesday until the middle of December. As competitive as the games are, the athletes know it's still all about having fun.
Yeah, we can give each other a hard time. And yeah, there's the guy who wins, takes a lot of grief the next year when he comes, and he got kind of a record to uphold. So.
This season, there will be 12 teams, including last year's champion, Terry McNamee and his rink. Each team will play an 11-game round-robin season while fighting for a playoff spot and the right to be named this year's champion later in February. Nevertheless, it will be an exciting season that will have fans at the edge of their seats.
Then there's also, the shot making, and it's very, very skilled at this level, where certain shots are in play, and they're willing to take a higher risk. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But when it does, the crowd gets into it, and it's pretty hard for you not to get into it too.
The Brandon Sun Men's Super League of Curling is a big hit amongst fans and participants. Each game will be held right here at the Brandon Curling Club every Wednesday at 8:30, right here on Westman Communication Group Access Channel 12. Each team will play 11 round-robin games to vie for a playoff spot to be crowned this year's champion later in February. For Westman Newsline with photographer Graham Leachman, I'm Colton Yarich.
Skate Canada takes place in Windsor, Ontario this weekend, and Verdun skating pair Paige Lawrence and Rudy Swiegers are eager to strut their stuff to the rest of the country. Coming off a silver medal performance in their preseason competition in Salt Lake City last month, the Verdun duo hopes to be in the running for a podium spot after finishing 8th last year. Lawrence and Swiegers also hope to travel to Moscow next month to compete in the Ross Telecom Cup. Bay Area baseball fans must be feeling spoiled. The San Francisco Giants opened the World Series tonight at home against the Detroit Tigers. The Giants won the championship just 2 years ago and advanced to this year's World Series after battling back from being down 3-1 in their series to beat the St. Louis Cardinals in 7 games. Detroit got here by sweeping the New York Yankees. The Tigers will start ace Justin Verlander, while the Giants counter with resurgent Barry Zito. Although the NHL labor talks have appeared to hit a stumbling block with no scheduled talks confirmed before tomorrow's deadline to have a regular 82-game season, the New York Islanders announced they hope to move into a new home. The New York Islanders have struck a deal to move to Brooklyn's Barclays Center as early as 2015. And Colton, that's all for sports.
Thanks, Jordan. So the World Series gets underway tonight. Justin Verlander takes the mound, as you mentioned, for Detroit. Are the bats of the Giants going to be able to contend against their strong pitching?
They're going to have a time with that, seeing as how the Detroit sweep the Yankees like they did. But I definitely see the Giants hanging in there, and we're going to see a pretty good World Series this year.
Yeah, hopefully it goes 7 games. Nothing better than a good, entertaining World Series, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, definitely.
Should be interesting, and good luck to both teams, and congratulations on making it this far. Tune in tonight when it all gets underway. That's all the time we have for you today, but be sure to join us again tomorrow for Brandon's only TV newscast, Westman Newsline.